I will call the meeting to order for the Bourne Board of Sewer Commissioners for January 30th, 2024 at 7 p.m. The Zoom chat will not be monitored. Participants who wish to speak must raise the hand icon until the chair asks them to unmute. Note this meeting is being televised, streamed, or recorded by Bourne TV. If anyone in the audience is recording or videotaping, they must acknowledge at this time. Mr. Roach. If anyone from the public wishes to access the meeting, they can do so by calling the following conference line, 1-929-205-6099. The Zoom meeting ID is 864-8518-4331, and the password is sewer, all capitals. All items within the agenda meeting are subject to deliberation and votes by the Board of Sewer Commissioners. All right, let's see here. What am I looking for? Okay. We'll start with a moment of silence to recognize our troops and public safety personnel. Everyone stand. And salute to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag, the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, and a reading of the vision and mission statements. Anyone like to start with one?
I'll read. The vision. Bourne is a proud community that embraces change while respecting the rich heritage of the town and its villages. It is a municipality based on strong fiscal government with a durable economy that recognizes the rights of all citizens, respects the environment, especially the coastal areas of the community, and the amenities that it affords. Bourne embraces excellent education and offers to citizens a healthy, active lifestyle. Want me to read the mission too?
If you'd like to. I was going to say if nobody does,
Mission:
I will.
Bourne will maximize opportunities for social and economic development while retaining an attractive, sustainable, and secure coastline and environment for the enjoyment of residents and visitors. Through responsible and professional leadership and in partnership with others, Bourne will strive to improve the quality of life for all residents living and working in the larger community.
Okay. So as we get into this, I just want to clarify that all of the sewer commissioners are present. I have verified that Peter is on the Zoom, and all the rest of us are here in person. Next up is the sewer allocation increase request for 46 Holt Road. So you'll see in here there was an error missed along the way that would have put too many of the residences on the one lot, and so they're requesting a change and a new request for allocation. Matt, anything before we go anywhere else?
No, we can let
Okay.
the gentleman.
Please introduce
Chair,
yourself.
Commissioners, Merlin Ladd for representing Ladd Homes. When I came before you the first time, I didn't have all the information, and I kind of misread some of the zoning. So when I had those 3 little individual units, not allowed by, even with a special permit. So we went and put 2 duplexes, and they were fit on the property. I went to Design Review Committee, went to Planning Board, Conservation. That whole process was approved by all of them, but I do need another allocation if the committee decides to grant it.
Matt, we do have all the approvals, planning, so everything's good.
I haven't seen the writing from planning, but I believe it was approved at the meeting, correct?
Yeah, last Thursday, correct.
Okay,
And now there's a 20-day appeal process.
right. So anything that we do tonight will be pending that approval.
Yeah.
Okay. Just to clarify, Matt, and let's make sure that we check into that and follow up on 20 days. So the new request is for 2 duplexes with 2 units per, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then Matt,
So the
Per
total allocation will go from 990 to 1320 gallons
Right.
per day.
So there's a small fee that is applied minus the original fee that was charged, correct?
Correct. The additional fee is $370.
Okay. So the additional would be 370, and the allocation goes to, what is it,
1,320 gallons per day.
Yeah, 1320. Any questions from the board?
No, it's pretty clear, it's all written, it's just preliminary allocations, and
MJ, any questions?
I do, I just have a couple
Yeah.
small things. I think it's a good plan. I don't have any problem with giving the allocation. I want to clarify some numbers, because the original sewer development fee that's listed on the allocation spreadsheet is $22,146.75. And I think that the packet amount for the sewer development charge says $21,846.75. Are these just typos, or is that?
That'll probably need to be modified with the new plan. I didn't know if it was.
So is the plan, it's the same lot, right? So the frontage and everything should be the same, right?
Correct.
I just think they should, whatever it is, and if what he's paid, if it needed to be adjusted, we should just make sure it's correct. The other question I had was, and a lot of this is process, not related to your project, but we're just implementing this process, so I got questions.
Those tweaks.
Yeah, so there's a
Adjustments.
letter here, that Tim, your memo says, application and design review fee complete, twice received
May 22nd.
May 22nd, 2023, and also January 2024. Were there two fees or one fee?
There were two fees,
So two fees
Yes.
for 1,500
yes.
for an amendment of a allocation.
I think based on the regulation, it was a modification to the plan.
So this is the change.
So it
in-
require,
sound
it
good.
require a new permit?
See, I have a problem with
Does it
it.
require a new permit?
They haven't gone through the full permitting process?
Correct.
Okay,
So this is a preliminary allocation.
right.
So the allocation spreadsheet did not show that there was another $1,500 paid.
It says in the memo,
Yeah, but it doesn't, it just says complete, twice received. It doesn't
Yeah,
say,
the twice
yeah.
received is a little
Those
confusing.
numbers aren't reflected in the allocation spreadsheet. That 1,500, and then the other 100 for the new unit.
no, I'm not talking about so I know we don't put, the residential connection fee, we don't put on the allocation. We don't put that $400, we don't put that on the allocation fee. But the application fee of $1,500, so I have a problem with the second $1,500. I have a problem with the second $1,500. I think if you apply for a preliminary application, it's preliminary. We don't have any fees in our policy for modifying a preliminary application. People have come in and modified preliminary applications before, and they weren't charged a fee. Maybe it's just because it's like, this is a new thing, and
It is a
and we
new-
kind
it's
of
a new
combined
process.
application fee and allocation fee. They used to be like two different fees. So I just want to understand
Actually, we
how we're actually.
separated them, and then now they're being paid together, but they were all one fee. There was no two different fees before. There was just a fee.
There were actually two different
And
fees,
then
and they
there-
were only charging one.
Correct.
Am I correct on this?
You are correct. Yeah.
That there were
and-
two different fees. There was an application fee and an allocation fee. They were supposed to be charging both, and they were only
They
charging
were
one.
only charging one. They were,
So then we
Correct.
combined them into one fee. So,
well, they're still separated technically.
and
but
I'm
they're-
gonna
they're
ask
being
for
paid
this,
as
I'm
one.
gonna ask for this later on the agenda when we talk about this. But I started looking at the different fee, the different projects. So when we, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No,
your whole
no,
thing.
I
I'm
agree,
just making
'cause
sure, like.
This-
Like I said, I waited to drop off
Yeah.
that check after planning, because if planning doesn't accept it, it,
Okay,
the
so-
process
No,
was
that
a
makes
little
sense.
confusing for me.
So, So we ask for people for a preliminary application and design fee, right, for a project, okay?
Correct.
And they haven't gone to planning board, and they have, we don't know, it's all proposal. And if there's a change in the number of units or whatever,
Change in design,
to me,
change in
it comes,
use.
I think it's all under the preliminary allocation, application and design fee. And then if they need more allocation, in this case, there's more allocation, then he pays the difference as part of the modified, and we just approve the additional allocation.
This is something that, as you brought up, we're gonna have more discussion on this. And this is, so you understand, and so the people at home understand that are watching, this is a fairly new policy that we have in place and a fairly new fee structure. And it is something that we've worked back and forth with quite a bit. So there may be some adjustments to this going forward, but for now, as the preliminary, we'll go through the process.
Right.
And make changes
We could
appropriately.
separate out that discussion from the rest of the
I just want to let,
discussion. Yeah.
Marlene wants to
Yeah.
comment on that, if you would, Ms. Town Administrator.
Thank you. I completely understand this will be taken up later at a future time. In advance of that, though, I'd like the sewer commissioners to make sure you're looking at attachment C when we do discuss it. The application and design review fee is a separate fee. It's $1,500, and in no way is it denoted as preliminary. The second fee on the list of attachment C is your preliminary allocation fee. So I do want to be careful with what language we're using and the terminology we're using. And I do think this is something that we need to discuss as a possible revision to your rules and regulations in the future. Thank you.
So this is something that we're gonna have on discussion soon, and it is preliminary, so, for now, we'll continue forward unless something changes. So we'll vote tonight for preliminary.
On the allocation.
On the
Where we return the
allocation,
allocation,
just on the allocation. Correct.
While we're on this, though, I want to point out on the application. So there is, section 1 is general information, right? And it asks about the number of sinks and all this other stuff. It doesn't really ask if this is a new application or an amendment of an application, so
And that's something
or a
that we-
new thing, and we need to think about that. But when you get to section 1P, right? It says residential connection less than 500 gallons per day. Skip to section 5. You don't have to fill out either section 2 or 3, only the rest of section 5. Then it says residential connection greater than 500 gallons per day. It says complete sections 2, 3, and 5. But I think if you're a residential connection greater than 500 gallons per day, you just complete sections 2 and 5. You don't need to complete section 3, because it's a general commercial mixed use, and it's not applicable in that situation.
That's industrial users 2 and 5.
That's 4.
That's 2 and 5.
So mixed-use commercial change, complete
Is 3.
sections 2, 3, and 5.
3 and 5,
That
yep.
should just be 3 and 5, right? Because residential, unless they have residential parts of it.
Well, unless there's residential, because it's mixed use, it's gonna have residential and commercial.
So on the mixed use,
Correct.
But you're saying residential connection only shouldn't have to do 3,
3.
just 2 and 5.
right,
Yes, I agree with that.
and then,
Because section 3 involves commercial mixed use.
right, so they shouldn't have to do that
Just
section. And then on the, then where it says industrial user, complete sections 2 through 5, well, only if they're applicable. So
Right, and so-
commercial,
so these are
mixed-use
all-
commercial, complete section 2 if applicable, and then 3, and then 5. And then, I'm just pointing out that these are
Yeah.
things, we need to do some tweaking
These-
on this.
These are all notes that
Yeah.
we should probably just put together and we
Yeah.
can email back and forth, and when we have our discussion, we can break them down.
Right.
Yeah, could I make a point on that also?
Yeah.
So the units we're making, they're duplexes,
Yeah,
and this is going back to what you just brought up. But we're selling them individually. We're not keeping them as a business and running all 4 units as a commercial enterprise.
Correct.
So to
Being
your
individually
point, whether
sold.
it's residential or private ownership,
right, yeah, so I think there needs to be some, if applicable, in that thing. And I only bring this up because when we started the allocation fee way back when preliminary allocation, the base fee was 5,000 gallons, right? And it was $5,000. And for some of these users that would come in for like 200 gallons, I'd be like, we can't, charging them 5,000 was too much. So looking at the fees and making sure, because there's a 3-pronged test
Make sure
on
that they
fees. They have to be consistent with what the town's doing for this person.
Correct.
So charging the same fee for a residential person who's doing less than 500, or a duplex person who's, I just think we need to look at the fees.
Yeah,
So-
we need to break that down.
And I'm hoping that if he has in fact actually paid another $1,500, that we would consider, when we change our policy,
Yes.
to consider abating
And
that
that's,
fee.
and that's my basis. It's preliminary. We're gonna vote on the preliminary part of it. The rest of it we'll address, because we're gonna do that as quickly as possible. So
Okay.
I understand.
There are going to
I
be,
understand.
Yeah,
there's going to be some adjustments, and hopefully Matt took some notes on that.
yeah. I can always call it out again.
What I'd like to do is just have, if you guys have questions or issues or any of those, let's make some notes and email them back to me or Matt.
Okay.
Either way, we'll get them all to Matt.
You said something that was interesting. You said that you have the $1,500 check for the second application, you just haven't turned it in yet because,
No, I wait until after Thursday's planning board,
okay.
because if they didn't approve, then I wouldn't need the sewer.
But it's already in.
So I wasn't sure if I could get that back.
But you've already paid that
But,
after Friday.
yes, I did,
Yeah.
yes. I dropped
Okay.
it off to Maria,
Yeah.
correct.
Last Friday.
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay,
yep.
okay. All right, thank you.
So,
Okay, so we are looking, I believe, for a motion to amend the preliminary allocation
Yep.
to,
46 Holt Road.
for 46 Holt Road to,
From 990 gallons to 1,320
20.
gallons
Okay.
per day.
so I make a motion that we approve the increase in preliminary allocation from 900 gallons per day to 1,300. 1,300. I don't know, we can't find it.
Can't find it.
1,320 gallons per day for the duplex development on 46 Holt Road.
Second.
Motion by MJ, second by, all right. So it'll be a roll call vote with Peter on Zoom. Peter, if you want to go ahead and go first, you
Oh,
can do that.
before can I amend my motion to say
Stand by, Peter.
that,
Pending final.
no, that I would like the board the board, maybe I'll make that a second motion. Just
Okay.
do that, just do the allocation first.
All right. Peter, go ahead.
Aye.
Anne Marie?
Yes.
Melissa?
Yes.
Myself, yes. MJ?
Yes.
Okay, 500. Your preliminary
Thank you very
is all
much.
set.
You're welcome.
Appreciate
And
it.
Thank you.
I
Nice
would like to
evening.
make a motion that the board consider at a future meeting the abatement of the second preliminary application fee.
Okay. Motion to consider.
Second.
Seconded by Anne Marie. Anything else by anyone else for that? Peter, if you would. Roll call vote. Say that again, Peter?
Yes.
Yes, Anne Marie?
Yes.
Melissa?
Yes.
Myself is a yes. And MJ?
Yes.
500 for the motion to consider abatement. Okay.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck with your project.
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right, moving on. So the next is discussion on 12 Kendall Ray Place, the operational allocation. So this is the actual allocation, or the actual usage versus the original allocation, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
So Kendall Ray Place, the Hampton Inn, has been online for 3 years, and we have 3 years of water data usage. So their original allocation was 15,243 gallons per day. Their current, in 2023, they used 6,931 gallons per day. 2022, 6,742 gallons per day. And in 2021, 5,830 gallons per day. So I guess the discussion this evening is if we want to remove them from the
Reduce.
allocation spreadsheet and just use them as usage going forward.
So I think one of the questions might be is, with the way the financial situation of the country and everything else with COVID and so on and so forth, do we feel that this is a real actual? Have they ever been to full occupancy? Have they ever been to 75% occupancy? And I think that's a legitimate question. How much have they been? What's the largest occupancy they've reached percentage-wise?
Okay.
I think that's a realistic question, probably before we make this assumption and change. I think time is a benefit for them. People knowing that the hotel is there, I think that time will probably bring more people to the hotel. It's new. People may not be as aware that it exists. And then with COVID and, you know, the way the financial state of the country has been, although a lot of people have been traveling, I know that here on the Cape, we've had a lot of people move to the Cape. I don't think that our travel has changed a lot. I don't think we've had a lot of travel to the Cape than we have in years past, so I'm not sure that changed a lot. That's just something that I wanted to point out. I mean, I think it's realistic to think that they may not have reached a large occupancy yet. Does anybody else have any questions, concerns? Okay.
Actually, I think they're doing pretty well.
I think they're doing well.
I mean,
I'm not gonna-
I do think they have good occupancy. I think that there's two parts of the question here. So, how we're going to track is an interesting question, because we have maintained Keystone as an operational allocation. And so I don't, I would want to really know how we're going to track it and know that we're doing well. And before I would rely on that. But I do think we should consider maybe reducing their operational allocation. That was the idea between the policy in the first place, that you would review it and reduce it if they weren't using it. I don't think we can use the average as the number, though.
Okay.
I think, so when Keystone.
Can I interject just one second?
Yeah.
Because you're on a good point, and I want to point this out. And so this is something that may need a tweak at some point. Do we take an average plus 10%? Or do we take an average plus 20%, just to make sure that we allow for variance? Is that, I assume that's what you're kind of getting at?
Well, it is, and I kind of went back and looked at Keystone. So Keystone had originally an allocation of 23,430. It's based on Title V.
Correct.
So Title V usage is generally about half of what the Title V, actual usage is about half of what the Title V design spec is. And there are reasons for that. They don't want it to be under-designed, they don't know what you're gonna do, there's high peak things, so this is DEP's way of protecting itself. So their application was eventually reduced to 14,000, which is about, I think it's about 60% of what the initial allocation was. So that's like the 50% plus the 10%.
Right.
Their current usage, according to the spreadsheet, is 10,797, which is still below the 14,000. But back in 2018, when we actually did the calculation, they were only using 8,263. So they probably weren't totally fully occupied. So I think.
Which I know
think-
right now, they're pretty full.
Yeah, I think if we do reduce an allocation, we need to have some sort of parameters or discussion about how we're actually gonna do, what
It
we're
can't be
gonna
a
use, like,
random-
what's the
right.
peak flow?
Well, and I
So,
think that's, I think that's kind of where I was going is, again, we're tweaking and,
Right.
this is that opportunity where we can see that, and you're right. Typically, we've found that you take the Title V and the actual usually comes out somewhere around half.
And this is,
Or
and it
less.
pretty is close to
It's-
that.
it's close.
It's like 15,069, I mean, it's less than half, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
It's
so.
pretty close, so, I think we need to come up with a plan that is written, that gives us an idea where to go with it.
Yeah, some sort of like formula
Right.
formula for deciding, and
And I think the question would be also, is to have the background. I know that Keystone, I have insider information that Keystone's pretty full, almost
It is.
to capacity.
Yeah.
It is a wait list.
So, yeah, so I know that is the case, and now, when we did that to the, operational allocation, it was, what was it?
they went from
23,
23,000 down to 14, but they were using around 8.
Eight.
So we did leave,
We
and
left
it was.
room for them, but now they've gone from 8 to 10.
Yeah,
So-
and they're pretty full, so we know that that's a pretty solid
Pretty
solid
safe,
number.
right.
And-
So that kind of gives us an idea where to project. So I think we need to have discussion again on a future agenda item
Right,
for that. So
yeah, I mean,
we'll discuss it when we get to future agenda items, we'll have
Okay.
that as well. But I think that's also needs to be supplemented with that background information, has the building been filled? Has the building been to full occupancy, and how often? And those are all things that we kind of need to understand when we make these changes.
yeah, and what's the peak month, what's the flow in the summer? Like, if you
Yeah.
figure that they're probably full occupancy in the summer, what's the peak flow month thing? I mean, it's a little bit more work to make the allocation, but when we look at the allocation spreadsheet, it's a living document. And it's one thing once we get to pretty much all the stuff is built, and we're dealing with ongoing. But we really kind of have to monitor it at this point, understand what we've put out there as allocation and what we're sort of got out there flowing, because there's a lot on that spreadsheet now that we don't know if it's ever gonna happen. We don't know if 100 blocks ever gonna happen. We don't know if Wagner
Way.
Way is ever gonna happen.
Yep.
I mean, there's things that are sort of really happening. Even the other Kendall Ray thing that, was all designed and approved by the planning board, and then, the interest rates went up, so maybe they'll come down and they can actually do it again. So I do think I think once you start using a policy to actually make decisions, is when you realize
Realize where
what
adjustments
what
can
works
be
in the
made.
policy and what doesn't work in the
And I
policy.
think the 3 takeaways from this,
Yeah.
in this particular, going from, an allocation to an operational. Peak flow, when does it happen? What is it? Has the unit been filled? Has it been to occupancy? And, what was the other one? There was a third caveat there.
Do you want a calculation for,
And coming up with a calculation based on
Right.
those, yeah.
Yeah, so because even like when we were doing our CWMP, like they say, well, you gotta do peak flow, use the peak flow calculation, and you gotta add it 20% for this. So there's something reasonable in here. It may be 10,000. It may be that we can reduce them 5,000 and add that as available allocation, or it may be 9,500. I don't know, but I think we need some sort of a range to make a good recommendation.
So as far as tonight, I don't know if we want to take it and make it operational allocation at this point.
No, I think this was,
A little
let's
background
discuss- yeah.
information and a little more research, and then maybe even a chance to look at that policy and set up a formula, if you will, policy review. I think that's probably the best thing, and that, before we make that change.
I think based on the conversation, we'll try to come up with a simple form or a checklist with all that information written
Yeah.
right on it. And then
Exactly.
for each development or property that comes
Yeah.
up, we can just keep the same formula going
exactly.
forward.
And we need to start identifying on that allocation sheet when we're supposed to be doing this review, because we've got a bunch like Calamar, we have a bunch of things where there's that
Well,
occupational.
this came up once before, because wasn't it 2 years? I feel like it was 2 years, but we postponed it because it was during COVID when they started.
Whenever I think they started in 2019, so that was supposed to be 2023 when they were reviewed, and we pushed it out another year because of the COVID situation.
Right.
So they needed a little extra time to really be.
Was it 2 years that we said?
I think 2019, isn't it?
No, but was it in our policy, did we say 2 years?
years. I think it
Three?
says 3 years.
Okay, 3 years,
This- Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, so we pushed it out to,
But I also think we should be tracking in this what the original allocation was. So we should have a place for knowing, say on Keystone, the original allocation was 23,340, and the operational became whatever I said it was, you know, yeah, what it is now, 14,000, yeah. Because that helps us understand that issue between the Title V allocation design and what we're actually expecting the property to run at. Because when it looks like we almost have no allocation left, we do. Because
yeah.
eventually it's all gonna shake out and half of it's gonna not be used.
once
so
some of these
it'll
things come
free
into
up.
an operational allocation, there's
Yeah.
going
Goes
to,
back
there's
to
gonna
the
be
kitty.
more.
Yeah, there's plenty there.
So,
So-
based on our conversation, I think we have enough notes and a general idea of where we're going. Matt, any other?
No, I think like I said, I think a simple form will
Yeah,
just
Manage
carry it
that,
through
yeah.
and have
Yeah.
everything
Exactly.
that we're looking for.
And then we'll have it on for discussion to set that into policy.
right.
All right, so we'll move on. Review and vote on the proposed FY '25 sewer enterprise budget, capital and operating. Matt, if
So,
you would.
we can start with the operations budget. If it's all right with you, could we use the recent spreadsheet I sent out?
Yeah.
Just because,
Oh, not the one in the book, budget book?
no, because what had happened was, we had done a little more digging into the operations budget, and was able to take out some items to kind of reflect where our projected budget line items are coming from. So if we want to start with the increases, there are contractual increases in the salaries. There's a $12,500 increase in department heads, an $1,195 increase in supervisor administrative secretaries. Those are both 25% of the salaries of myself and the administrative secretary from the town administrator's office. There's a contractual increase in the laborers for the salaries, and there's a reduction in longevity. In the purchase of services, there is a $10,000 reduction in electricity. Just based on historical trends, we've reduced that. And then if we go down to the services waste removal, that's the Wareham fee, there's an $11,038 increase to that fee, which is contractual with the town of Wareham with the new IMA agreement. So where we made some changes is we looked at, when we get the Weston Sampson contract services invoices, they bill us for sludge removal, they bill us for equipment purchases, for chemicals, all in one bill. So what we did was we broke that out. So the line items that are highlighted are where we kind of took money from those contracted services bills and broke them out. So for instance, we are going to ask for an increase to sludge this year and bring that up to $80,000. In FY '23, we used $51,000 for sludge, and we're already up to about $38,000 in sludge this year.
Can I ask a question about that?
Sure.
Is that just from our wastewater treatment facility, or does that have to do with Wareham?
That is just sucked out of
Just-
our warehouse.
just
Yep,
that- I just wanted to clarify.
Yes,
Okay.
that's, And we don't think we need to make any changes to chemicals. In FY '23, we spent about $12,000, and we're on track to spend about the same amount this year. So the only increase we're gonna see in the purchase of services is for the sludge. There were no increases in supplies. In the capital assessment, Wareham, there's a reduction based on, there's a $188,000 debt service coming off of Wareham that we're gonna see a reduction in. We, in the budget that, Mike sent you, we talked about this today, there's a capital outlay is the way it's titled, but it's not really a capital article, it's not capital funding it, it's just funded out of the budget and the revenues. So we're gonna change that to new and replacement, machinery and equipment. And we're gonna ask for an increase in that to new equipment from, 5,000 to 15,000. That was one of the other items that when we looked at what they were spending on equipment there, it seemed like it needed to be an increase.
What kind of
I
equipment
was
would
just gonna
that be?
ask, what is it?
So there's little fittings and things and mechanical equipment that has to be replaced, just to keep this wastewater facility operational. So those are,
Preventative management.
yeah, so those are being replaced and billed to us under the agreement.
Okay,
We're gonna monitor that stuff more closely going forward and make sure that what they're billing us for is what they're supposed to be billing us for, but so that's why that's an increase there. These facilities will need more and more money for those line items as it comes, as the facility grows older, it's just the nature of the
Right.
treatment facility.
Is the new equipment for the wastewater treatment plant, or is it for the whole system?
So this will be for the whole system. The way we went with this line item is it's a combination of both, the wastewater facility and all of our other assets.
But new equipment wouldn't be replacing maintenance things, right? It would be things that
Well-
you didn't have before? I don't know, I'm just kidding.
No, and we don't really have a line item we currently under this budget don't really have a line item for kind of just treatment plant parts. There's a line item under building and maintenance, R&M, but that's kind of more for our distribution system and our collection system. So this seemed like where the way the budget's built right now, the correct place to put it, because they are replacing parts and new equipment's going in.
It's kind of tough because you think of equipment as
Yeah.
operational type equipment. But equipment could be machinery, things like that, so.
Is this also the stuff where they said that the computers that we bought, the system that we put into the plant was obsolete when we built the plant, so,
Which was correct, that
Yeah.
it was not obsolete.
It was not. They changed that, yeah.
Yeah, they looked into that, and it is still current
Yes.
and operational. And there is still equipment available to replace and repair.
all right, but are we replacing that equipment? Is that part of the reason that we're doing that 15,000 for replacing that?
That does not need to be replaced
Okay.
currently, correct me if
There
I'm
were
wrong.
parts that go with the pumps and the chemical feed systems. And there are minor
Machinery feeders
electronics.
and things like that either feed chemicals or operational pieces of, like pumps, certain pumps that have to be replaced on a regular basis.
I won't belabor it. I just don't understand the difference between replacement equipment and new equipment. The way it's being described, it doesn't sound like there's a difference. So if you have things in mind that you want to put in there, that's fine. That's okay.
I think we can hopefully tweak this budget in the future years too, and maybe add different line items that are more
And Matt,
in
this
line
is
with.
Matt's first year with it,
Yeah.
so there's
No, I
gonna be
get
some
what
change.
you're trying to do, so I appreciate it. So that's good.
And I know there was some changes in the permanent debt service. I don't have the specifics on those. I saw that Mike or Erica said they may be able to just
Marlene
hone in on exactly what those changes were.
Before you go too far, let's let Marlene, if you would,
Sorry.
Town Administrator.
Thank you, sorry. For the capital outlay line, the new and replacement equipment, this is something I also struggled with because really, by the time we get into using the operating budget, we're not expanding the system in any way, and we're not, adding new lift stations or adding new components. It's really, I don't know why the budget was structured this way to begin with, but to me, it makes more sense to think of this as all replacement, because we're replacing a worn out component with a new component.
Right.
So that's a distinction that I don't really understand in the budget, and it's something that, at the end of the day, I don't think it really matters that much, as long as we're accurately tracking the costs.
And I think, some of it could be, even though it's replacing, some of it changes the equipment. It's a different piece of equipment, so it could be new, because updating, changing, or something that works better. So, yeah, it's all encompassing. But again, this is the way the budget was set up previous, and Matt's trying to work through it, and we understand that. So before we go any further, I'd like to let Erica comment.
I had a comment regarding the debt, if you're ready for that.
Sure.
Sure, go right ahead. Might as well jump into it.
Yeah, and so the change in the debt is just related to the FRS payment for fiscal '25. And in the first year, this is the second year payment, there was a larger admin fee for the first year when we came online. So that's the reason for the small decrease. And we still have the $10,000 for an older borrowing that is on the schedule as well.
Okay. So Matt, you're back on.
So overall, we have a reduction of $100,527 to the sewer budget for this year. And one thing I wanted to say, if we went to below the fund analysis, we met last week and discussed this year funding the sewer enterprise fund without taking any retained earnings to supplement the operating budget. So that is reflected in the enterprise fund analysis. So if we didn't, with the current proposed budget the way it is, if we didn't use any retained earnings to supplement that budget, it's only an increase of $1,800, I'm sorry, $18 per user from fiscal '24 to fiscal '25. If you guys have any questions or.
I mean, it's all pretty clear, other than that little glitch with new equipment, replacement equipment, and I think we've all moved on from that. It's the way it was set up, it's where it's been put previously, and I'm sure in the next one, we'll probably get it cleaned up. Anybody else have any other questions on this? MJ?
So, I think the budget's good. I really like breaking out the wastewater treatment plant into different aspects, because the first year we had everything lumped in, and so I think that this will really help us understand the operation, so I appreciate that, and I appreciate that work that you did. I think I said at a previous meeting that, we had the $188,000 drop in debt service, and I wanted to be careful about, not having too much of a change in the budget because of that. On the other hand, $1,200 is a lot of money for a seasonal resident using 10,000 gallons a year to be paying for a sewer fee. And, the people have been paying a lot because we were waiting for users. We didn't have users. We got a lot of money from allocation fees last year.
And
We
theoretically,
got
we're still waiting.
5,000, 1,000, 137,520, 40,491, 11,920, and 39,818 in allocation and sewer development charges. And that's what helped us bump up our retained earnings a lot last year, and I think that's a good thing. So I am not willing to say yet that I'm okay with not using any retained earnings for the fee. I would like to hold out that discussion because we haven't had our policy discussion on retained earnings and what we should have as retained earnings. And I understand not wanting to have the rates go down, but frankly,
Well, and
it's a really difficult time for people right now, and I'm just really concerned that,
Well, and I just want to clarify, it's not that we don't want the rates to come down, we would love to have the rates come down.
Right.
But the reality is that we are still theoretically waiting on a lot of users going forward. And we're also in the mindset that we know there's a large expense coming.
yeah, but
From
not,
where?
when is that coming?
That's the question. So, do you keep all your eggs in a basket and wait, or do you, spread the food and the wealth? So, and that's for future discussion. It really is.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with approving the budget to go to finance committee, I think that's the point of
Yes.
this.
Right.
I just want to reserve discussion, because we have to make that discussion on retained earnings before town meeting, because it's in the motion. I really am troubled by it, so I just want to say that.
Okay.
I understand why they're doing it, but I'm still troubled by it. And I'd like to see, sort of based on what we've got in the mix here for allocation, what users are we going to have on? How much money are we going to get from allocation fees and other fees that are going to bump up our retained earnings? And
What do we have coming?
what's
down
our
the pipe?
long-term plan? I mean, if we've been increasing our overage fees gradually each year, and if by the time the Wareham plant comes up, we're going to increase our overage fees
Overages.
to the point where it matches the cost per gallon, then we can lower the base rate and have everybody paying according to usage. It's just taking us a while to do that.
Right, and
And
that's-
so, but in the meantime, a jar of mayonnaise costs $7. I mean, if we can do anything to help the lower users, I mean, even if it's for only 2 years, I mean, I'd like to get the rate down to 1,000. I mean, and that doesn't seem like a lot to a lot of people, but there's a lot of people on fixed income where that $200,
A year, yeah, that
it
can make a
buys their eyeglasses this year. So, I would like to have continued discussion on that.
Yeah, and like you said, we our overages, we're going up on those, so that's a change that's coming. Slow progression, but it's
Yeah.
coming. And we've been working at that for a few years now, right?
Right.
3 years now?
Yeah.
So there are a lot of things up in the air, and that's something that Matt's new to. He's
Yes.
jumping right in feet first, which is awesome. He's clearly getting a grasp of everything, and I like to see that. So, but yes, obviously, we're always open to that discussion. I think, I don't think anything's off the table per se, but we do have a lot of variables still out there.
Yeah, and we built in a lot more into the budget for replacement that hasn't been there in the past, so
Yeah,
I think
I mean, there wasn't much of
there's a
anything.
lot more in the budget for like taking care of things that was
There's a
kind of
lot
lowly
more,
budgeted before.
there's a
so.
lot of better management of it in general right now, so, which is good. So we're looking for a vote. For the
I'll make a
proposed
motion to accept the sewer department budget as presented and turn it to the finance committee for review.
Second.
Peter's still there, so Peter, if you would, roll call.
Yes.
Henry,
Yes.
Melissa?
Yes.
Myself, yes, and MJ.
Yes.
All right, 500. All right, Matt, there you are, that's done. And let's see, next on the agenda, extension of the O&M contract for the wastewater treatment plant with Weston and Sampson.
Did you want any discussion on the capital?
I was just gonna ask,
Oh.
are we discussing
Yeah.
capital?
I wasn't sure if you guys were gonna
We
approve them
still- we-
separately.
Yeah, it's the,
Sorry about that, I did move on a little quickly.
Okay.
Yes, back to you with capital.
I think this is probably the second time you've heard this.
yes, yes.
So we are asking this enterprise fund to fund a replacement of a 2009 F-250 with a 2024 F-250. We're basically replacing the same truck with the same truck. We are going to plow this vehicle. I know this conversation has come up in the past. The plow will be purchased out of the general fund or free cash. We're still been talking with Marlene about how to finalize that, but it won't come out of the enterprise fund.
And that's the only thing this year.
That's the only thing on the
only
list.
capital item, correct?
Yes, for this year, yes.
So any questions about that? Anyone?
No, we saw.
Okay, and we're all
Saw
still
before.
in good understanding about being used for plowing as a town vehicle, all hands on deck type of mentality. Okay, any other issues with that? Okay, someone want to make a motion?
Make a motion to accept the capital budget for FY '25 and to turn it to the Finance Committee for review.
Second.
Motion by MJ, second by Anne Marie. Peter?
Yes.
Anne Marie?
Yes.
Melissa?
Yes.
Myself, yes, and MJ.
Yes.
All right, now we can move forward. Sorry about that. Extension of the O&M contract for the wastewater treatment plant with Weston and Sampson.
So the, as you saw in the packet, the contract for the operations and maintenance is going to be expiring on, the first 3-year contract is going to be expired on May 31st, 2024. So we would like to continue the contract for at least another year, and extend it for a year, just to, they've done a good job for 3 years, operating the plant. I know it's been offline and there's been some issues, but I think overall it's been well handled by Weston and Sampson. So we'd like to consider extending that contract for at least another year. They had, when the original RFP went out, they had put in a proposal from June 1st, 2024 to May 31st, 2025, of $86,940 to continue that operations. Last year, we paid $82,800. So it's not a substantial increase, it's just a general increase over the last contract. So I don't know if it's something you guys would like more information on, if it's something you'd like us to move forward with, if there's more information you guys would like us to get from them.
So essentially, we're gonna carry on the exact same contract. Everything stays the same, other than essentially the price.
Correct.
And for 1 year.
Derek?
Yep.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Peter. Go ahead,
I
Peter.
think 1 year, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, I think 1 year may be too short, that if we are going to extend it out 2 years, maybe a more realistic number, because before you know it, it expires May 31st of this year, but then you go 6 months and all of a sudden you're negotiating on another extension. So I think just for transparency, I think this should be a 2-year contract, so that way we're renegotiating after 6 months if we only do one.
So I'm gonna agree with Peter. Marlene, if you just give me 1 second. I'm gonna agree with Peter. I'd like to see it be a little longer. I don't want to get into a conundrum where we're panicking and jumping through hoops at the last minute. So Marlene, your comments on that?
The second year is already negotiated, which
Yeah.
is not asking you to, use it right now. So, the contract in your packet is set up with 3 years as the base. That's what we're gonna be ending, May 31st. And then the following, you have 2 1-year extensions to exercise if you so choose, and those prices are set.
Okay.
The first 1-year extension is $86,940, as Matt, stated, and then the second 1-year extension is $91,200. So you can exercise the first one and just hold the second one in reserve and choose to exercise that one later, but you won't have to renegotiate this.
Okay.
You won't have to renegotiate, or actually, let me step back. By May 31st, 2026, all of your contract years will be finished. And you will have to go, you can't renegotiate, you have to go back out for bid. So you have the 2 one-year extensions, and then after that, it's a new RFP to determine if you wanna, and then evaluate the responses at that point. But nothing will need to be renegotiated after the first extension.
Okay, I think that's the important part to understand is that this June 1, 2025 through May 31 of 2026 does not have to be renegotiated. They're already offering that and available to do that, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
Is that
Yeah.
written somewhere in the contract? I
Yes,
didn't,
it is.
The contract shall be renewed at the town's discretion on an annual or biannual basis, or the new contract with the contractor shall take over responsibility for the wastewater treatment plant as submitted for DEP approval.
where are you?
But
It's
by-
it's right at the, I don't know, page
Yeah.
1 of 4.
But by law, what Marlene's saying is at the end of
This
that,
contract, we gotta renegotiate.
yeah, at the end of that last contract, we have to renegotiate and put it out to bid.
Of 2026, we have to,
Correct.
yeah,
So
has
this
to go back out.
annual, like MJ just read, the annual will last until then.
Right. We'll just have to vote for an
Again,
additional year renewal.
Yeah, next
some
year.
point,
I think we should do it year by year. I would prefer to do that based on what's happened in the last year.
I'm good with that, except that in this particular case, I don't want to get to a point where we don't have somebody on
Yeah.
board, where we have so many new things happening with it.
Right.
I'd like to have at least the security for those 2 years for now. Going forward, yeah, that's fine, but after these next couple of years, I think we need to have some stability, and I think that's important. But we're only doing the 1 year for right now, so it's fine. And any other questions?
Do you need
from
a
anyone?
motion? Do you want a motion? I'll make a motion to accept the extension of the Weston Sampson O&M contract for June 1, 2024 through May 31, 2025.
I'll second.
I don't know if Peter's hand was up from before.
Yeah, Peter, did you have anything else, or is that just still,
I'll take it down afterwards, but my question's been answered.
okay.
And I vote yes on the motion.
Very well. Anne Marie?
Yes.
Melissa?
Yes.
And myself is a yes. MJ?
Yes.
And
Can I
Melissa?
ask what the, so there is other contracted services aside from this contract that's, because we originally had a contract with the engineer. We don't have that anymore because it was part of it was part of the SRF thing that we had to have a professional engineer for the first year or something. But now it would just be added on if we needed extra time. That's the cushion between the budget and this amount.
Arlene's hand is up. I don't know if
That's
on
the hourly rate, right?
Yeah.
Services?
Marlene, Town Minister?
So that contract was required by
Right.
DEP for that first year. It's actually still in place. We have not expended that fully yet, so we've been able to stretch that out. It's something that, even though it's not required anymore, we'll probably continue it because it has proven to be valuable.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else from anybody? Okay. That's done. DPW Director reports.
So this was something I asked to add. I just think once a month, there might be things that don't need a whole agenda item, but just to kind of run over quickly some of the things that are going on. So this month, Tim and I have been working closely together. We're going to start sending out the letters to the businesses in regard to the fog management plan and start having them fill the forms out and do inspections and slowly get them all up to speed where they should be. We did put a sample of that letter in your packet for your review. We're gonna email them. We have all the email addresses through other permitting processes. We're gonna email them and kind of work with them closely on that. We're
Can I
working
ask you a
with.
question about
Yeah,
that?
sure.
It's gonna go to the business, right? Not to the owner of the property.
It'll go to whoever has the Victrola license.
Okay,
So that's the way we're gonna do it, because they'll be running the business.
okay, thank you.
That makes sense.
Based on the common vic.
Yep.
On the,
Common vic
whatever
license.
license they have with the health department.
Correct.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Okay.
Welcome, thank you.
we're working with Weston Sims right now to renew the groundwater discharge permit. It's at the end of its 5-year lifespan, and it'll be due to be renewed by June of 2024. DEP is actually coming in for an inspection Thursday to move that along. Weston Sampson doesn't foresee any issues, and we don't really foresee any issues also. We've been in discussion with a few different consultants in regards to coming up with a scope of services to deal with the design of chemical feed system at the Hideaway Station to deal with the hydrogen sulfide and the odors going into Wareham. Hopefully, we'll have something in place sooner than later. But we're going to go with an engineer to design it so that it's done correctly and that it's eliminated once and everyone will, it'll be on the up and everything will be good. One other thing I want to add, Tim, with all the rainstorms, Tim worked with Weston Sampson to do a drainage repair from the treatment plant to eliminate the drainage issues at the park below, so I think he wanted to give an update on that.
Yeah. So the infiltration system that we installed for the wastewater treatment facility, we are also in the neighborhood for our Queen Sewell Pond drainage project. And when we were in the neighborhood looking at some drainage, residents came out. A couple individuals that we had, specific problems with said how great that the system must have been functioning because there wasn't any flooding on those big rains. So that was a relief for us because that was a similar rain to rains I've seen his yard become inundated with rainwater. So we installed it and we're seeing results. And I just wanted to report that just because it seems like it's what we set out
That's
to
really
do.
good. I know we
Yeah,
had
that's a
had
good
it,
follow-up, yeah.
I don't think we ever knew that it would finally been installed and was actually working, so that's a great
So we're complete.
update,
We've been
so.
online for about 3 months or more, and it's
Oh,
operating.
thank goodness, because we've had some rains.
Yes.
El Nino is getting us.
Yeah, somebody is. Perfect, thank you.
Thank you, that's awesome.
Thank you, Tim.
That was all we had.
And that's it.
you.
All right, policy.
Fun.
Let's see. Amend rules and regulations and abatement procedures. Matt, do you have anything you want to start with?
So I will just start with, and I'm sure Marlene will jump in. I don't believe that the policy committee met to make all the changes we discussed on the abatement policy, but we did do the updates based on the conversation from last meeting with the Board of Sewer Commissioners. So I don't know if you have any other conversation on that or what next steps you'd like to take.
I think we'd like to see something
Marlene does have her
written
hand up.
at some point that we can have in front of us.
It's part of the sewer abatement
Yeah.
form in the packet, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Marlene?
Mr. Chair?
Yep, Marlene, if you would, Town Administrator?
Yeah. So page 50 and 51 in your packet, I believe I've captured all of the discussion from the last Board of Sewer Commissioners meeting. So if you can let me know if there's anything that I missed, then I can wrap this up and put it back before you for a vote. But this version is updated based on your last month's discussion.
Okay, so this is all the changes that we discussed the last time?
I believe
Yeah.
so.
Okay. I'll be honest, I didn't see anything that you missed in my reading. I will defer to everyone else if they have anything that they would like to see added in or was missed from last discussion. Anyone?
Looks pretty.
MJ?
I think it's fine. I just want to make sure that, so we've said request for abatement due to water being shut off. It's the following criteria. It's the 2 years thing. And the building not have been occupied. And that's fine, rendered uninhabitable. But people can request for another reason, like the leak situations that happen. And they're just supposed to document it. And then it's reviewed by the DPW director, who can make a recommendation to the sewer commissioners. So it's not only for these reasons. We can have other reasons
Yes.
at the discretion of the recommendation of the DPW director and the sewer commissioners. Is that,
And I
am
think
I
that's-
interpreting this correctly?
Yeah, and I think that's covered down below at the bottom, that
All
Yeah.
abatement
all abatement
requests.
requests, yep.
Yes.
Yes, that is correct. People can request abatement for any reason they
Right.
wish. These tend, historically do have been typical, request
Right.
reasons, which is why we're giving a little bit more guidance.
Yep. No, I think this looks good.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing that was in the actual, there was a section for abatements that, in the sewer regulations itself, that somehow has to reference this document. I don't think it has to go into too much more detail, but there should be something in the regulations that references whatever appendix this is gonna be
Attachment E
stuck
or
in.
what-
That's what he, yeah.
Yep.
Is there
Yes,
anything here?
once I know that you're good with the language in this instruction form, then I'll cross-reference it in the body.
Okay, yeah, no, that looks good.
Marlene, do you need a vote for this tonight? Would you like a vote?
It will have to be voted, so if everybody's fine with it, you can vote tonight and it can become a part of your rules and regulations. Otherwise, it'll need to come back and be voted before it's effective.
Let's move it to final reading and have it actually, what's gonna be in the regulations sort of laid out
Okay.
and have it like finalized, whatever.
That's fine, so we won't vote tonight, we'll move it to a final
Yeah.
reading.
Yeah, motion to move the amend rules and regulations for abatement procedures to final, third reading.
Second.
Roll call, Peter? Yes. Anne Marie?
Yes.
Melissa? Jared, yes, and MJ?
Yes,
Okay. Sewer Enterprise Fund Financial Policy.
We don't have any updates on that policy. I don't know if there was more discussion.
My battery just died, so.
That was good timing.
Don't either.
We got minutes in next, so we're good.
Minutes I've already read, I'm comfortable with, but, so
can we just put that on a future?
let's
like,
put, the
Let's
Sewer
put that on
Enterprise
a-
Fund policy on the next one.
On a
And we-
future agenda, because we're gonna get the sewer, the financial policies, which for sewer,
Is that on the 6th?
yeah, and, you'll see how it is for sewer, and then we can have a follow-up discussion whether there needs
I
to be
think
more
because
of a
they are
template
coming,
framework.
I think it's
Yeah.
probably better to wait anyway. But we'll put that on there. We'll add it to the future agenda items that we've already started. So moving on, that takes care of those, and we have one set of minutes to approve. Any issues, questions, complaints on that one?
Make a motion to accept the minutes for 12/19/2023 as presented.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Roll call vote, Peter?
Yeah.
Anne Marie?
Yes.
Melissa?
Yes.
Jared, yes, and MJ?
Yes.
All right, 500. Correspondence, does anyone have any correspondence? Anyone, Bueller? Okay. We're on to the big one, future agenda items. It all seems to be policy. Policy, policy, policy. So, Matt, we have, Sewer Enterprise Fund Financial Policy. We have the abatement will come back.
Rules and regs, abatement.
What was that?
The rules and regs.
The rules and regs.
Rules and, I want to really have a discussion about the rules and regs and the fees. And,
That's included in the rules and regs, right? The fee?
Yes.
yes, but like,
more
we're not opening up the entire rules and regs. I want to specifically
But more
talk about
specifically,
the fees
the
and
fees that
what
go
we're
with-
charging and when we're charging and what constitutes a change of use. When is it just an amendment of an application?
Right.
We don't have anything about units in our allocation. So there's nothing says that an allocation of 10,000 gallons is for 5 units. It only says that it's an allocation of 13,000 gallons. So clarity so that people who have an allocation understand what they can and can't do with that allocation.
Right.
And fees and when we charge fees and how we charge them and what's appropriate. Should a
we have to get,
homeowner of 500, less than 500 be paying the same fee as, I mean, should we have like a application fee and then a review fee and then a major review fee?
Right.
It just seems to me, and it's only because you start thinking about the fees that
right,
people are paying.
and so this is gonna be a fine tuning of,
Yeah.
fees and rates
Right.
for, applications.
Yeah.
So that's on there. What else? Do we have one other? I thought we might have had three for some reason.
We were gonna
Allocation
talk
and
about the operational allocation for Kendall, operational allocation process.
Operation allocation process.
That's separate from the rules and regs, is that?
It is.
Okay.
Yep, so that's essentially just that formula.
And that might be
12
part of,
Kendall
we might need to update the rules and regs to include more of that, so
More of
people
that,
understand
exactly.
how it's gonna be
So I think they'll,
determined.
tie into each other, which
Yeah.
is good. Correspondence committee reports, anything? Anybody? No? All right.
Wait,
I'm not on any of those committees.
Think too hard.
I
I'm
just
really
wanna
doing well
talk
here.
about Cape and Islands Water Protection Fund. I don't know if we've done that much. There's a lot working on trying to get more money into that fund so that people can continue to get money from that. So be supportive to your legislators if they try to do that, just saying.
Okay. All right, and next meeting would be February 27th. And I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
So moved in a second. All right, roll call vote. Peter?
Yeah.
Yes.
Anne Marie? Melissa?
Yes.
Jared, yes?
Bullet.
And MJ?
Yes.
We are adjourned.